Hey everyone, and a special welcome to all you UPSC aspirants out there. This is the very first of 6 new explainers where we're going to break down the core concepts from the CBSE Class 12th Microeconomics textbook. We're kicking things off today with Chapter 1, covering the absolute fundamentals. Let's get right into it.
So to really get what economics is all about, let's try a little thought experiment. Just imagine for a second. What if you had unlimited money, unlimited time, unlimited everything? Would you ever really need to make a choice? Probably not, right? You could just have whatever you want, whenever you wanted it.
But of course, that's not the real world, is it? The reality is that the things we use to get what we want, our resources like money, time, land, they're all limited. But our desires, what we want, well, those are pretty much unlimited. And this fundamental clash, right here, is the very heart of economics.
Now this conflict, it's got a name in economics: scarcity. Put simply, scarcity just means our wants are way bigger than the resources we have to satisfy them. And it's this exact problem of scarcity that forces every single one of us to face what's called the problem of choice.
So because we're always facing this problem of choice, every single economy, doesn't matter if it's India or the USA, has to answer 3 basic central questions. First, what are we going to produce and how much of it? More fighter jets or more hospitals? Second, how are we going to produce it? Should we use more human labor or more machines? And third, who gets all this stuff we're producing? In other words, who gets to consume the goods and services? This last one is right at the center of huge debates in India about things like social welfare schemes and subsidies.
Okay, so we've got this problem of scarcity and choice. But how do we actually, see it? How do we analyze it? Well, economists have a really powerful visual tool for this, and it's called the production possibility frontier.
Have a look at this table. What it's showing us are the maximum possible combinations of 2 goods, we'll use corn and cotton as our example, that an economy can produce if it uses all its resources and technology as efficiently as possible. So, for instance, look at possibility A. If this economy puts everything it has into making cotton, it can produce 10 units of cotton, but that means 0 units of corn.
All right, now this is where the magic happens. We're going to take the numbers from that table and actually plot them on a graph. And when we do this, we're going to get a super clear visual picture of this economy's production limits.
And there it is. That curve we just drew, that's what we call the production possibility frontier, or PPF for short. Think of it as the boundary of what's possible. Any point right on this line means we're using our resources perfectly. Any point inside the curve, well, that means we're being wasteful. And any point outside the curve, that's totally impossible to reach with what we currently have.
So what happens if we actually move along this curve? Let's say we want to produce more corn, maybe by moving from point B to point C. Notice what happens. We have to give up some cotton production. It's a trade-off. Because our resources are limited, you can't just have more of everything. To get more of one thing, you have to produce less of another. And this trade-off, it perfectly highlights one of the most important ideas in all of economics: opportunity cost. The amount of cotton we had to give up just to produce 1 more unit of corn, that's the opportunity cost of that corn. So the key takeaway here is that the downward slope of the PPF is basically a picture of opportunity costs in action.
All right, so we get the problem. We understand scarcity. The big question now is, how did different countries actually try to solve these fundamental problems? Let's have a look at the different systems they use.
So if you think about it, there are basically 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. On one side, you've got the centrally planned economy. Here, a central authority, like the government, calls all the shots and makes the big economic decisions, usually with the goal of social welfare in mind. Then on the complete other side, you have the market economy. Here, it's individual buyers and sellers making decisions based on supply and demand, and the main driver is the search for profit. But the thing is, in the real world, you'll find that almost every single economy is actually a blend of these 2 extremes. We call this a mixed economy. In this kind of system, the government steps in to make key decisions in certain areas, think defense or major infrastructure, but most of the other economic activity is left to the market. And the best example of this? Our own country, India. Okay, this next part is absolutely critical, especially for you UPSC aspirants. You need to understand the 2 different lenses that economists use to analyze these systems and figure out what's going on. It's about learning to think like an economist. So let's break this down. The first lens is called positive economics. This is all about describing what is. It's objective, it's based on facts, and you can test it with data. The second lens is normative economics. This is about prescribing what ought to be. It's subjective, it's based on values and opinions, and you'll often hear words like should or ought to. And trust me,
This distinction isn't just academic, it's incredibly important for your exams. When you're analyzing a government policy in your mains answers, you can use this exact framework. You can start by discussing the factual impact of the policy. That's your positive analysis. Then you can go on to evaluate whether that impact is actually good or bad for the country, and that's your normative analysis. Using this will seriously add a whole new layer of depth and clarity to your answer.
Okay, you've been listening patiently. Now it's time to check your understanding. Let's do a quick quiz. Take a moment to think about the questions you see.
First up, why does that PPF curve slope downwards? I'll give you a hint. It has everything to do with scarcity and opportunity cost. Got it? The answer is that because our resources are scarce, if you want to produce more of one good, you must produce less of another. That trade-off is the opportunity cost, and the downward slope shows it perfectly.
Question number 2. Let's talk about the problem of for whom to produce. What does that really mean? Well, this gets into the distribution side of things. How is everything that we produce going to be divided up among the population? Who gets what slice of the pie? This is the fundamental question behind policies you see every day, like the public distribution system or ongoing debates about things like wealth taxes.
And for our last question, take a look at this statement. The key word here is should. The statement is making a recommendation, a value judgment about what is right. So, is this positive or normative economics? That's right, it's a classic example of a normative statement.
Fantastic job, everyone! That wraps up our deep dive into the fundamentals from Chapter 1. Thanks so much for joining me. In our next explainer, we're going to jump right into Chapter 2, the theory of consumer behavior. Hope to see you there.